Hey class, so this week I wanted to try something new. So we are going to do a graphic essay. And the reason why I'm a little late this week is because I went ahead and did it myself, so you'd have a sample. So I think you'll like it. So basically, since we just kind of finished this second wave of the feminist movement, I want us to do a biography, a graphic essay. So let's run through this. It says students will select an author that we haven't read or discussed. So for this latest module, I believe we only read 3. So you have plenty to choose from. Right? So somebody that we haven't read yet, and somebody that played an important part of the second wave, right? So somebody that was influential during the second wave, and you will create a graphic essay. I want you to have at least 2 sources, and I will show you that in a minute. So it is a visual paper, but you will have some of the main components, of a conventional paper, like a thesis statement, supporting reasons, something called a rhetorical precis that I'll show you, a works cited, and some quick facts. And, however you want to spruce it up, right? That's up to you. You can use something called canva.com. I went on it. There are many kind of pre-made templates that you can use, Google Slides, but I went ahead and used a Microsoft Word. All right. So it's basically going to be 2 pages. Once you decide on the writer, and you could begin kind of planning it out. So I chose to do Toni Morrison. I have read about 4 of her novels, mainly in college, and I thought she fit nicely, especially within the context of the African American movement. So, first page, and all of these parts are going to be pretty brief. So you want to include your basic introduction, have a hook maybe, right? 3 to 4 sentences that provide some context, and your thesis statement. So your thesis statement probably going to kind of make a statement about what the writer has done, right? How did they kind of help the movement, right? What role did they play? Something to that effect. All right, so that's a sample, but I'm going to show it to you later when we get to the my sample. Okay, so then for one of your sources, you are going to do something called a rhetorical precis. And basically what that is, it's kind of like a summary, but it's very guided, very short, 4 sentences. All right. So in that first sentence, you will have, it's basically like an introduction. The author, the name of the article, maybe what kind of article, like is it a journal article? Is it a reputable website? Something like that. And, whoops, let me scroll down here a little bit. And, one of your basic reporting verbs, what are they doing? Are they describing? Are they trying to argue, right? So you do that. And basically your thesis, right? So your clause that you state the major point. That's a thesis statement. So that's all you have to do for the first sentence. Next sentence, basically kind of going to get into a little bit. Talk about how the writer develops that thesis. This is 1 sentence, so it's going to be very broad. But you can get kind of creative. I think, I used a compound sentence, so a comma with a conjunction. Sentence 3, you're going to talk about the purpose, right? For what purpose did this writer choose to create this piece of literary criticism, right? And then finally, at the end, last sentence, who's the audience? It could be for a very broad audience. It might be for a specific group of people. And talk about the tone. I think in most cases, especially with a journal article, the tone's going to be mostly objective, right? Neutral. Okay. And you want to come up with 3 big questions, right? And those are questions that you're going to find the answers to. So here it says brainstorm 3 big questions about your topic, and your supporting reasons, which will come next, are basically going to answer those questions. And all this will be posted. All right, so that's page 1. Page 2, you want to include some images, more than one. As you'll see when I show you mine, there are about 4. And a quick fact sheet, and finally your works cited. So let me show you mine. Here's kind of the layout that you can use. Mine's a little backward. Okay, so here's my Toni Morrison. All right. So Toni Morrison. Wait a minute. I'm sorry, that's not it. I'm on the wrong page. Oops. Let me pause just for a briefing. Okay, so here is a sample. I didn't spend too much time on it, but just to kind of cover the basics. So notice on the top there, I have the title, right? So the writer that I'm going to write about and my name, right? So for me, it's Toni Morrison. And then for the introduction, it's pretty similar to a paper, just not as long. So you notice we have a hook, a little bit of background context, and your thesis, right? So what I did, I actually chose the first sentence from her novel, The Bluest Eye. So I'll read it. All right. Quiet as it's kept. There were no marigolds in the fall of 1941. We thought, at the time, that it was because Piccola was having her father's baby that the marigolds did not grow. And so begins Toni Morrison's novel, The Bluest Eye. As the second wave of feminism morphed into existence, it also channeled into different ethnic factions due to each one's unique desires and needs. For African American women, they had 3 major obstacles to overcome. So I kind of borrowed some of this from the lecture that I made. The equal rights, racism, and sexism. Many comparable writers surfaced during this time, and now I leave with my thesis statement that is going to introduce the writer and the point that I'm trying to make. None, however, were able to address these 3 issues as effectively as Toni Morrison. All right. So my 3 big questions, right, that I'm going to kind of reveal are: does Morrison sympathize with any particular black female character's position in the hierarchy? So if you recall from the PowerPoint lecture, I talked about how within the black community there was sort of a hierarchy going on, and it was based on skin color. Second question here: where do the male characters fit in? And finally, is the book a didactic one? Meaning, does the writer want to teach us a lesson? Right? Is there some kind of proposed solution that he or she wants us to do? Something like that. Okay. And the supporting details are basically going to answer those questions. Morrison tends to sympathize with those who reside at the bottom of the hierarchy. In The Bluest Eye, which is the novel I'm focusing on, Piccola Breedlove, the novel's protagonist, suffers immensely because of her blackness. She yearns to be more fair-complected as she envies white society, or white images rather, and she is treated as a scapegoat for other black characters as they make it a point to articulate and celebrate their lighter skin tones. So this is a very interesting dynamic that's happening within this novel, and I think it's important, right, because it kind of helps to explain why there was that split, right? Why the second wave kind of had to split, right? Mostly out of necessity. Okay, and then so for your rhetorical preces, right? That's that one source that you want to use, and it's 4 sentences. As you can see there, I have it. That first sentence was the intro. A feminist study of Toni Morrison's The Bluest Eye. Research scholar K. Valarmati, illustrates, so there's that reporting verb, right? How Toni Morrison's The Bluest Eye epitomizes the plight of the African American woman as they struggle to obtain the equal rights within the society they lived in, but also battle to achieve rank in the hierarchy within the African American community. In the novel, Morrison first explains, right, how whiteness is the prized possession. That's what all the characters want to be, right? That's basically how they measure themselves. Okay? And as the black woman in the novel, particularly the women, try to measure themselves against the established norm, conflicts over the various tones of color undermine basically the overall goal, which is to attain status, right? Equal status in society amongst their white peers. Morrison wants her readers to understand that the multiple battles that black women had to engage in ultimately thwarted the main objective of the feminist movement. Right? Women want to control, they want to control over their bodies, they want to control over how they were going to navigate the public sphere, right? So the business world, basically. Valarmati maintained an objective tone throughout the article and lets his points persuade the reader. His audience is mainly students of literature and those who want to weigh literature's impact on the feminist movement. So that's basically what you need, right? So there, again, my supporting details, some quick facts there, right? She passed away, I think, a few years ago, but before that, she was one of the few living writers that had actually won the Nobel Prize, and actually one of the few Americans. So that pretty much takes care of the first page, and mine's backwards, but your second page is going to have a lot of the images, right? So there she is, receiving that award from President Obama. And here I got a pretty cool quote, another image there, your quick facts, and your works citing. So that's basically it. I mean, feel free to add more, decorate it, right? So the main thing here is, lots of visuals. So I hope you have fun with this, and thanks for listening.